Hey there, how's it going? It's the Slayer here. So, today I'm doing a quick review of Star Trek Online, which is basically a free MMO, though they say you can at a later stages optionally pay to get ahead, but there are a lot of free players as well. And this came out in 2010. Now, before I get into the details, now it's quite impressive as we are exploring the space dock here. In summary, it's got a lot of content. You could be, playing for 70 to 80 hours if you wish, or you could do a quick playthrough of a small mission. And it's got a lot of content, and it's got all sorts of, game modes, right from ground combat to spaceship combat, which is a mixed bag. And here we are just going to, walking past the Admiral's office where you get your missions and stuff, and all of that is there. And you can even level up your character, or as you progress through the levels, you get an option to upgrade your ship, including to some which are the iconic ones from your series. And there is there's like a storyline continues about what happens in the movies and stuff, and what happened after some of the plot lines in the TV shows and movies ended. So, and it's also got callbacks to icons and cameos from others. So in terms of the gameplay experience, and you could start off as any character you want, bridge, science, engineering, tactical, and you could choose which generation of Star Trek you're playing. And here I've played Star Trek Next Generation, that generation that corresponds to basically that. I've set myself up in that universe post the events of that Romulus being destroyed as in the movies, and what happened then. So here you see I've just sat down at a table, not bad. So from that point of view it's good, but the reality is, given of course it came out in 2010, the graphics are a bit dated, and the ground to ground the ground hand to phaser and hand to hand combat and other stuff, they feel a bit clunky. And I personally, although I won the ship battles after a while, I found them a bit arduous. So it's basically good graphics, great settings, as in average graphics, great setting, good storyline, but parts of it are a bit dated, and the combat mechanics to me felt a bit clunky and that way. So here it seems that another player, I didn't recognize this character I'm standing next to before, but when I came across this lady, I learned that even some of the other players could be visiting Space Dock at the same time you are. So it is likely like this Cassie was another player. And yep, here we just see the Admiral's office. Now I've done a separate video I'll give you a link to, in which I basically showed you the highlights of my training mission. So when you first start the game, you're given a training mission where you start off at the academy, and then you come across to Space Dock and you go for a space mission. That is if you choose the generation I did, and I've covered that in a separate video. That's pretty interesting. So here we are in the Space Dock, which is a place, Earth Space Dock, where you'd be coming back to quite a bit in the game. Like here you can go to the medical infirmary, you can go to the games bank where you trade whatever in-game currency and credits, or you can go to requisitions for officers and other items, and you can even go to a shipyard, which I'll show you shortly, and requisition ships as you earn the credits to get more to repair them. Now here, this is actually a bar and a nightclub, which is quite fascinating. So they have tried copying the 10 forward of the Star Trek The Next Generation, and they have a bartender similar to the character Guinan. Now that is one issue with this game. Now we just saw the bar, and hey, this is a discotheque right next to Space Dock. That's going to be a shorts clip from me as well, that a discotheque right next to Space Dock. But this is one issue with the game. While it's not too bad, what's clearly dated is that a lot of the areas and visual renderings feel a bit too stretched. Like when you're inside a shuttle, or when you see the infirmary, or even when you see the bar and this discotheque here, everything feels a bit too stretched out. You'll find, oh wow, here we're looking down at Space Dock right from the nightclub. That's not bad. Yeah, and all of the ships and stuff there. So, but you'll get an idea of this as we progress through the video. So one thing that really makes the fact that the graphics are a bit dated stand out is that while some of the outdoor areas are good, as you'll see ahead in the video, that when we visit Vulcan, the peace and serenity of the outdoors there, or there is a beautiful monastery which we go to. When you go to areas like that, the game is graphics are almost comparable to modern ones. And here, okay, we have just shifted to another deck within the Space Dock, and So we can just have a quick look. And sometimes when you're outside space dock, like I'll show you a docking sequence as well, that too doesn't look quite bad based on current standards. But when you're indoors, when you see the other character models and when you see how all of the indoor lounges, areas and insides of the ships or the transporter rooms, they feel a bit stretched out, that's where you can make out the graphics are dated. But that too isn't too much of a concern. But where it becomes like a major issue for me was that, at least on my PC, like I'm using an NVIDIA RTX 4060, 6GB graphics, 16GB RAM, Acer Predator Helios Neo, which is from 2023, which shouldn't matter because this game came out in 2010. And I'm playing this on GeForce Now, so I'm not actually playing this on my computer. So GeForce Now is something that NVIDIA users can subscribe to, whereby you can either use it for free for a limited number of hours, or you can take a paid subscription which renews every 6 months, and you can basically play the games that you own online off their rigs, provided that they also have that game in their library. They don't have all, but they have some. So I could connect my Steam account to them, and some of my Steam games were in there, and they have some from Epic and others as well. Okay, so here we are down at the Starfleet Academy. This looks pretty beautiful as well. So my point I'll quickly make is that I'm playing this on GeForce Now. So how well it plays on GeForce Now depends on the quality of your internet connection. And my Wi-Fi, they did warn me, doesn't meet the minimum requirements for theirs, but it's still running pretty well. So I assume that if my Wi-Fi met the minimum requirements, but they did give me access to one of their best rigs as I paid for a plan. So I'm actually running this off an offline NVIDIA rig using GeForce Now, which itself is not bad. And here we are. This is beautiful. This is like San Francisco, the peace and tranquility of, like, the Starfleet Academy in San Francisco. Love the sight of the bridge and, being here. This is one of the few parts of the game that also looks pretty good. Yeah, so that's pretty impressive. And as we progress through this video, I'll shortly, get into the ships, what the space combat is like, both at the individual ship to ship and the group level. And I haven't covered the, the ground combat, because that's pretty much like a ordinary version of any first-person shooter. So yeah, and here it turns out that these two are probably other players who are visiting the academy as well, because again, they're characters seem to stand out. So yeah, they're different buildings. So as you'd see in my intro video, that when you do the tutorial, like the building I'm standing outside is the one where you go and you meet the admiral and you meet people who give you some initial tests and assignments, including one where you go to holodeck and shoot the phasers and stuff. So I haven't gotten into that much over here. Now, there was another building in this Starfleet Academy that I never really explored, so I'm going to go to that one now. So yeah, okay, now this isn't another player, this is just one of the cadets by the AI. And yep, so there's an interesting building which says class of 2409. That's interesting that some of the parts of that building actually remind me of parts of a building from my university where I'd done my master's. So I was like, yeah, that was kind of funny. So this is another building. Here we go, and oh yeah, class of 2409. So that's pretty good. And you can actually walk inside that water as well. You can go inside that pond and you'd get a bit wet. I found that out later. So yep, this looks like a big entrance mess hall. So you see everything is rendered at the kind of scale that'll make you feel like this is Star Trek. So here you just go to a bar, you can order some drinks or items or something like that. So this is another thing which makes you which makes you realize the age of the game. The one good thing about the game is that they have provided updated content based on Star Trek TV shows that came out in the last couple of years. Of course, it's still, as far as I know, I haven't explored the engine and whether they've made any updates to the graphics or settings, but they have included content based on recent Star Trek shows. So at least that way it's current. But the way the characters interact with each other, you can make out that's a bit dated. And oh yeah, this is beautiful. This was one of the clips that my shorts videos also will start with. And this is me maneuvering the vehicle into space dock. Normally, once you reach space dock, you get a message where somebody says he can dock it for you. But I wanted to try, like I saw ships going in and out. So I said, let me actually, what happens if I take my ship in? It actually docks you in and stuff. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, it should be docking in shortly. And yep, and then you basically end up at that space dock that I showed you. And Yep, just let it load for a second. And oh yeah, stuff does take a while. Yeah, I didn't realize I included that full thing. But yeah, so we were back on. Now we're in the shipyard in the space dock where we were earlier. So we start with this, this Miranda class ship, which isn't too bad. And then I've just started playing this game yesterday. What I understand is as you progress every 10 levels, you'll get a chance to upgrade your ship. So now we'd also shortly see the one that James T. Kirk was using. So yeah, that's the Constitution class. This is the one that James T. Kirk used in the iconic Star Trek show. And then if we move ahead, we'll also shortly see the one used by Jean-Luc Picard in both his TV show as well as the Enterprise E that they used in First Contact. And there are lots more ships. And funnily, although this is a Federation shipyard, apparently there are like other species ships as well, like Romulan and Klingon birds of prey and other stuff, and there are different kind of science vessels and warbirds and other stuff from the show. But I haven't quite figured out how to get to these yet. As I said, I just started playing the game yesterday and whatnot, so it seems pretty interesting. I thought it'll be good to get my perspective in that way. And yeah, if I continue playing this game, it'll be interesting to see as I level up my ships and stuff, so that'll be pretty good. And I recognize that this warbird from Romulan Prey or whatever from one of the Star Trek TNG episodes. Now where is the so this is the one that Jean-Luc Picard captained in Star Trek The Next Generation. So this is based on that. That's like the I think the Galaxy class or something, so that's pretty good. And there will be one more over here. So let's see. Oh yeah, I think so that's the one, the assault cruiser. I think this is the one that they call like so this was like the Enterprise E, which they used against one of the Borg invasions or something. So yeah, there are different ships here, and I guess as you level up, you'd get every few levels you'd get an opportunity to level up your ship as well. So I guess that in terms of the way this game is laid out, like I like both Star Trek and Star Wars. The off late, as I've grown older, I've associated with Star Trek more. But I must say that Star Wars makes some really kick-ass fun games, like in terms of pure adrenaline and entertainment and whatnot. So they're good that way. But okay, here we've got, this is beautiful. We are just in between the space dock here, and you can get to see the ships. Now you can make out it's a bit dated, but it's not too bad for 2010. So imagine if this was rendered today, this would have been pretty interesting, like looking in at the ships docked in at space dock. Now this is like what the ship battles are like. Now people like this, but I found this very clunky and annoying, because if you go at full impulse, you end up leaving the battle zone, or if you maneuver under that, the movements, the way the ship, it's not a typical left, right, up or down. You use the up and down to arch up and down, and then you use the directional controls to move around. So to me, it feels a bit clunky and slow, though eventually you can win. There was only one fight, which until now, against a Borg spear, which I kept on repeating until I realized that I had to upgrade my shields and weapons that I had won. And there is a button here which basically allows you to transfer emergency power to shields and maintain your shields. If you press that, you should pretty much, at least until now, the first few levels into the game, you should pretty much be able to sustain yourself in any firefight against any number of opponents. But yeah, so you've got to figure that out. But I don't like how cluttered this interface is. Maybe as I progress through the game, or I look through some of the official STO community reviews, would figure out if there's a way to improve that. But okay, now this is your in-game menu of your inventory and customization. So here you can look at your player or your ship, and you can fit it out with whatever latest weapons or upgrades you win. So which is pretty good, and this goes into a lot of detail. So for somebody like from 12 to 21 years old, or like future science students, or maybe old adults who are really hardcore techies who want to get into the tech, the level of detail this has gone to in terms of the ship's equipment, your personal self, your personal shielding, and your skills and whatnot. There is a detailed menu of a large number of skills by designation and level that you can even equip yourself as an individual. So if you're into that hardcore a Trek fan, and you're into gaming, so this is enough free to play content to keep you occupied like for ages, not just the 70 to 80 hours they say. But yeah, now this is a group battle. So here we are in a group space battle, where you reach a stage where you call you need the Federation's help to get rid of something called an undine ship or something like that. So yeah, this was a bit again, until they came, you had to make sure you survived, which took a while. But in this one, it's pretty interesting. You get to see some ships similar to the Enterprise from the original show and that. But in this one, I after doing various battles, I took it easy. I'm just moving around the periphery. I'm letting those guys destroy it a lot. But you can't do that in most of the game. You've got to pretty much do it yourself, even if you're in a group. But yeah, here I just took it easy, because this one thing I don't like is the navigation and the camera angle, and this gives me a headache, particularly in the even the ground battles that I haven't shown you. And okay, here we get like one of the many famous callbacks to the iconic show. So here's Geordi LaForge, who's the engineer from the original Star Trek TNG. He's a captain now, so yeah, he's come in and that. So, and you also, your training mission also involves Admiral Janeway, who's like, I guess, what Captain Janeway progressed through in this universe. So it's pretty interesting for a hardcore techie, but as you can see, the interface is clearly dated, but it isn't revolting or offensive. It's not something that's going to give you a major headache or shut it down. Now, okay, now these are the parts where the game looks good. So you're here on Vulcan. I've just taken a side quest to escort an ambassador. So you saw that was my shuttle, and now this is quite beautiful and peaceful and tranquil as I'm just going up the hill to meet the guy, and it's pretty nice. So these are places where the game still looks these are the kind of setups where the game still looks good, but I just wish they had a lesser cluttered interface, or an opportunity to call up menus when you only need them. Otherwise there's like hell of a lot going on the screen, almost as bad as Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I didn't play that game, I just saw videos of that, but whatever, I have no interest in getting that. But yeah, but this looks beautiful, like where we are even at Vulcan. So even for a game from 2010, I assume they would have had some minor tweaks or updates over the years. So but yeah, this is still pretty good. So but you can make out that everything is a bit stretched to that at times. So yeah, and these are the ambassadors, or the people I speak in, so I'm not going to spoil the plot for you or show the entire thing here. So yeah, I did end up talking to these guys, but I've just shown you cuts of what all I had done. And now, see, this is inside a space shuttle. This is where you can make out that point that I was making, that it looks good in terms of the lighting and other stuff, but is some of the lighting as well. And now, once I turn around, you'd see it feels a bit stretched. Like this, if you compare this to what it is like in the TV shows and the movies, it's not as big and stretched. So that's where you can make out it's a bit dated, but it's not too bad that way, yeah. So, and yep, and here I had to basically get back to the ship and stuff. But on the whole, look, I think it's a good game for Trek fans. And oh, one sec here, this was amazing. So this was one of the monasteries where you go to retrieve one of the guys you're trying to save or something, and it turns out he's something else. But this actually looks beautiful. And now here we are in the mezzanine floor of Space Dock, where they've got a nice touching tribute to some of the real actors who passed away. So that's pretty nice. So on the whole, look, it's a good game for Trekkies. It's got plenty of detail, plenty of opportunity for leveling up characters and ships, and it's got a lot of continues the storylines from famous shows, and it's got a lot of the technical aspects of the lore to keep you occupied. But some parts of the presentation, the interface, the graphics are a bit dated, and the space combat can get a bit cumbersome. At times it's enjoyable, at times it's boring, and the ground combat, the hand-to-hand melee, or the phaser combat, that was a bit nauseating at times. I didn't like the way the camera angles moved, or maybe it was specific to my device that camera angles in the shooting mode or others didn't move. But I've played a lot of first-person shooters and others in recent times, and they're certainly much better in terms of like camera angles and controls over the movement. But look, this is amazing for a free game. End of the day, it's free. You don't really have to pay unless you reach a certain level, and even then, if it's only if you really feel like that. So considering that it's a free game that's been available for 2010, it's pretty good. But I guess that it's like one of those things that you need to be a Trekkie, and maybe if you got a long holiday and you're sitting at home, you'd want to spend a few days clearing off the first few levels so that you reach a level where you enjoy playing this game both for a small amount of time or for extended periods. So that's pretty much my take of it. So I mean, I just got it yesterday. Some parts of it did really impress me, but yeah, initially my first video of it wasn't too impressive, but then I said, let me the one that I made around 14 hours ago, but then I said, let me give it another chance. I chose a higher quality of streaming over the GeForce Now platform that I'm using, and then I sat down with it and played it again, and it wasn't too bad on the whole. Yeah, so yeah, let me know what you think. And there are the official Star Trek Online community has tons of guides that can help you specifically with what to do in each mission, or what to or how to navigate. And that is one of the main things that it took me a while to figure out, that there are different elements, like there is sectoral space, and then there is within a particular planet, and then there is the system where the planets is, and then there is sectoral space where combat doesn't take place and you're transitioning. So all of that is fine, but initially I didn't realize how their maps work. So at one stage I had to go to Space Dock, and I just manually navigated to Wolf 359 from where I found my way, because I knew that from the series. But there are easy ways to use the maps here to navigate and to know what to do, and anytime you need to get back to your ship, there's a way to beam up and whatnot. And it's actually pretty simple. It's not too bad. So, and there are official guides from the STO community that can help you in all of that. So that's it from my side. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think about this game. And yeah, feel free to share any comments or content requests. Cheers.